Welcome back, folks. Today we got a treat for you guys. This guy's a legend in the lighting business. We got Bill Warren, Greg.
Yeah, I've read a lot of his articles over the years in the IES magazine, and every single one of them hits right on the point on issues in lighting, and it's awesome to hear from him, and I'm glad we got to talk to him
We're going to
on
get you
camera.
live, Bill Warren. You're going to come on, sit down with us live, and we're going to record it, and we're going to get the three of us going there for a bit because that was a lot of fun, and I think it would be even more fun live. This episode of the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast is sponsored by Keystone Technologies. Go to KEYSTONETECH.com, baby, KeystoneTech.com. What are you telling us about today, Greggy?
Well, you'll see it on the screen on YouTube, but they're X-Fit high bay fixtures. They have a round and wash down high bay. So they've got the round one they wrote, also called UFO. And I don't like that term personally, but we have a story that we've seen in China. Some guy showed us a UFO video of a light fixture, but
Yeah, that was
a
pretty
round
wild.
light fixture that was. So different story there. But they have a round one. They have multiple options in terms of lumens. They have a 6-foot cord, a ring bolt mounting accessory already put on the fixture, and a safety hanging kit. So it's easy to hang that round fixture in place of an existing round. A lot of times people that have round want to keep it round. So you can do that now with Keystone. And then they also have an X-Fit, they call their washdown fixture. That's IP69K rated, which is the highest rating available. So wet locations, and it can withstand close range, high pressure cleaning. So for those intense environments, Keystone's got you covered now too with their washdown fixture.
Yeah. Go to KeystoneTech.com. That's KeystoneTech.com for all your UFO high bay needs. No, I hate that term, UFO. Please, can we just end that? Can we just please end the UFO? I can't deal with
Yeah,
that, dude. I have
yeah, we're
customers
done
ask
with
me for
it.
that. Do you have any UFO high bays? Get out of here. I can't deal with it. I'm not selling you anything. It's
No
called a
alien
UFO.
high bays here. No
No,
alien high bays. We got
no.
round ones.
But you can go XFit by Keystone. Go to KEYSTONETECH.com, TECH.com, baby, KeystoneTech.com. And of course, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. Go to NAILD.org. That's NIL.org for information on joining us, the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. But for right now, we got Billy Warren. Hope you don't mind me calling you Billy. Billy Warren on the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. Welcome to
Yeah.
the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast, Bill Warren.
Thank you.
Say hi to Greg Eric.
Say hi to Greg.
Yeah, say hi to Greg.
Yeah, hi, Greg. Hi, Mike.
Hi, thanks for saying hi. Good to have you on.
So, I read one of your.
What can I do for you guys?
Well,
right.
we read one of your articles. We're very interested in your views on the lighting business right now. But I'm going to let Greg fire it up because he knows you a little bit better than I do. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, so Mike said we read one of yours. Maybe that's Mike. I've read all yours. I love your articles in the IES magazine. I always look for that one first. How long have you been writing for IES?
Oh, 22 years.
22 years. And how often do you do them?
1977.
How often do you write those articles?
Well, they print them once a month, so I have to deliver them once a month.
So you do
So
it once a month.
22 times 12
It's a lot of writing.
are in the can. I just
There you
sent
go.
up April's, and April is a good one. It's a new one. We have a new light
Love it.
source on the market, and it's called a laser light. And can you
Sure.
imagine
Yeah, we did
a headlight on a car that will throw a 1 to 2 degree beam 1,000 meters?
Is that a good thing, Bill?
Well, BMW is putting them in their in 2019 cars, but they're only approved so far for use in Europe. I guess the federal regulators in the United States are going over the approval application as we speak.
Very good. So your official title with the IES, is it Energy Advisor, or is that just something they made up?
Well, that's the title of the column, but I am a fellow, a former chair of the board of fellows. I've already had one Lifetime Achievement Award. I'm expecting another one of these days.
That's
Question
great.
is
So
whether
give us
you're
a,
good. The question is whether he's a good fella or not, though. That's the real question.
Yeah, I got one a couple of years ago in San Diego. Nice place. It forced all
sure.
4 of my children to fly out to see me.
so give us
Excuse
a little
me?
more on your background. We know you've been writing for IES for 22
My
years, but
background. Well,
yeah, how did you get in lighting?
I graduated from Cooper Union, which is a full scholarship school, in 1950. And in 51, I joined the Holophane Company by invitation by the president, Clarence Keller, who visited Cooper Union and interviewed the senior electrical engineering class and selected 2 of us. Norman Falk and I both became vice presidents. I, in my 18 years, went up the ladder until I was vice president of manufacturing, of all things. And I had 5 plants, 4 of them in Ohio, 1 of them in New Jersey. And I spent a lot of time on TWA planes. In the meantime, I had gotten my PE license, which is very important in the United States if you ever want to go into consulting engineering. And I also taught illumination engineering at Brooklyn Polytechnic Institute for about 7 years, and I taught lighting design at the New York School of Interior Design for about 6 years. So I had both sides of the coin, the technical and the artistic, or the design with architects as opposed to lighting designers who are engineers. Now, that used to be the only source of lighting design, the electrical engineering department of a consulting engineering firm. The only lighting design when I first started in 1950 were for the theater. And they were very, very expensive and very elaborate. And there were only a half a dozen of them, but they were quite knowledgeable. Little by little, graduates in about 4 schools in the United States, one in Denver, one in New York, one in Chicago, and I think one in Southern California, were graduating designers who majored in lighting. And in my case, I started out in the television industry in 1950, and I discovered that Sony was the only one doing any invention in the field that I was in. And most of the manufacturers in the United States were just doing reverse engineering. So when the president of Emerson, who I worked for, came into the lab and pulled the plug on the first color cast in 1950, saying to us, I pay you guys to design them, not to watch them. And I figured I better get out of television. I had already gone for my master's, and I took a course from a leading expert in television, and I scrapped that whole end of my career and switched into lighting. So at Holophane, they put me through the engineering department for 18 months. Then I was assistant to the vice president for a while, and then I was asked to take over the New York City market, which I did. And from there, I became a regional manager for the Holophane Company with responsibility for the Middle Atlantic. And I was giving lectures all over the country in schools and in lighting agencies, mostly agencies and lighting design firms that were familiar with holophane. And then I left holophane to start my own company with two partners back in 1968. And our expertise at holophane was in prismatics. Holophane was working with glass for many years. Remember, I graduated, and the only lighting done right after the Second World War was incandescent. Fluorescent didn't come on the scene as a result of the conclusion of the Second World War, and they brought out all of that design that they had mothballed in 1939, 1940, because every big manufacturer was in the war effort. They brought out fluorescent. GE and Corning was making the glass tubes, and somebody else was making the phosphors, and they gave us a light source that had 10 times the efficiency of incandescent. So we did a lot of schools and offices. Residential remained incandescent for a long time, but the revolution of a 10 times saving was too good to ignore, except for the New York Archdiocese. I became the consultant to the New York Archdiocese, and I met Cardinal Spellman, and I worked for the chief building commissioner. And I did surveys of parochial schools and churches and hospitals for the Archdiocese. And one day I had a meeting with the chief building commissioner, who later became building commissioner of the city of New York, a fellow named Eugene Holt. And he said, Bill, I want you to look at our schools and tell me what we ought to do. Well, I found that they were using an awful lot of incandescent. And I said, you better switch to fluorescent because you could save a lot of money. He said, Bill, I have news for you. The nuns and the priests never turn on the lights. So the incandescent isn't burning up any energy. Why should I switch to fluorescent? They won't turn those on either. They do their own painting. They do all of their own carpentry. We have a chap up in Poughkeepsie, New York, who's a priest, who's a registered architect, and he designs our schools. So what do we need modern lighting for when we don't turn the lights on? Well, ultimately, we got them to change because it really didn't make any sense. The lighting in classrooms was using 6 watts a square foot. Fluorescent with incandescent, with fluorescent it was 3. So right away you had a minimum of a 50% saving. But fluorescent kept getting more efficient, and incandescent didn't go anywhere because it had been around so long that it already peaked at about 15 or 16 watts a square foot. Fluorescent started out at 60, and today it's at 100. Well, it's mostly at 70, but you can get them that up that high.
I read an article that the Catholic Church is the organization in the world that is the most resistant to change of every organization on earth. They are the most resistant to change, and it's interesting that you brought that.
As an organization, but
Yes.
as a board member at Mercy College, the president, Sister Mary Theldreda, was gangbusters in New York. And Mercy College comes to me and says, we want to buy the Franklin Q. Brown estate. It's got 10 acres. We can move our school for women, 400 women. We'll then build a high school, and I'm not Catholic, and we'll build an elementary school. And we think we have enough room, but can you help us? And I made a deal with the next town, Irvington. They had a golf course adjoining the Brown estate. So I made a trade on zoning with Irvington. I had them change the zoning of the 18th hole from recreational to school. So I became a hero, and Sister Maria Felderer, until she died at age 100, was a very dear friend of mine.
Wow. Let me ask you something. I want to ask you. I want to mine you a little bit here. Did you need incentives and rebates to sell fluorescent over incandescent back in the 50s?
There weren't any. I sold it on the basis of getting rid of 6 or 9 silver bowl lamps in a 3-ring circus that had 6 to 7 watts a square foot. With Holofene's fluorescent, I could replace those 9 500-watt lamps. That's 4,500 watts in a classroom that's only 700 square feet. I could replace it with 2 rows of fluorescent with wide-angle lenses.
In a schoolhouse, when you have those dropped fixtures that are pendant mount fluorescent fixtures with the little lines in them, those are all Holofane made fixtures? That's what you were selling back in the old days? Many of them.
They're original. Yeah. Now, some of them had louvers.
Yeah, the louvers. I remember the louvers.
And they also had the little cells, the hex cell or the square cells, which were very inefficient. Holofane lenses.
You know where I've seen them the most is in Catholic schools, and I'm not joking. That's okay. I see it the most.
Well, as time went on, we had another big change, and that was the LED. The LED was a monumental increase in efficiency. But the problem is that most users took it as it was without expending any money at all on quality. It was all quantitative. It's all been driven by the DOE in the United States. They want all new buildings, commercial buildings, by the year 2025 to be zero net energy. And it's possible. It's possible. If you bring daylight into a school, it's harder to do in a office building because it's got blockage. It doesn't have the glazing that a classroom has. But there are lighting designers like Jim Benya who can do a school at less than a half a watt per square foot. That's incredible. Right now, there are people out there saying that lighting is about 30 to 40% of the electrical load that goes into a building. It's not true. When you mix the new construction, which is only 1% a year, plus the upgrade of the existing, they're now down to about 15 to 18% of the electric load in lighting. And if Benya and the DOE have their way, by the year 2025, it'll be 10%. Because as that 1% of new construction comes in under the new half a watt per square foot level, we're getting all sorts of efficient increases. But it has a bad tail to that horse. And that is street lighting. They took out the Cobra head and they took a saucer, a frying pan that had very little silhouette. They jammed in a bunch of LEDs. There's no quality control. There's no shielding. It's raw, glary LEDs. That bothers me. We had the opportunity in street lighting to save lives And we still do if we only wake up. Let me tell you a current problem. In Washington, Oregon, and Colorado, they have just accepted and adopted recreational marijuana. In those 3 states, in a short period of time, the collision rate due to marijuana has gone up 6%. We haven't done a thing to improve safety on our roads. All we did was brute force, shove as many LEDs as you can into the smallest possible cross section and let it ride. It's criminal.
Bill,
Really?
you're 100% right. And you know what? I think street lighting is the biggest unmitigated disaster in the lighting business that I've ever seen in my 20-year career.
Thank you, Michael. The 2 of us can wear sandwich boards. Well, that's what I keep saying in my columns. It's criminal what we're doing.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Now,
and
with this
can I ask you a question? Let me ask you a question. So my belief is that the lighting business became overheated, and it became overheated by all the they say government money, but it's really ratepayers' money, people that pay the electricity in those utility areas, ratepayers' money sloshing around everywhere, just sloshing around. And, everybody was jumping on it like a fat kid on Smarties. And all sorts of fixtures came pumped in from China. Everybody was filling out the forms down at various accreditation agencies to get their fixtures accredited because of light output and the wrong criteria. And there are entire municipalities in Canada that have like 80% failure rates and stuff like that on a host of different kinds of luminaires.
It reminds me of the guys that made the first moon trip in '69. One of the IBM computers failed. So they made a call to IBM, and IBM said, "Bring it back and we'll fix it." What good will it do me now? Well, you want us to send a man up to fix it? That's what happened with China. China said, "Hey, I didn't sell you maintenance. I sold you a product. If there's something wrong with it, bring it back. We'll fix it."
Yeah, for sure. What's funny is that there's a lot of nonsense like that called 10-year warranties, Bill, where, people say, yeah, it's warranted for 10 years, except on page 15, we back out of all those warranties. But sure, you pull it down out of the ceiling and send it back to us, and we'll fix it for you. What? That's ridiculous. And the way this industry has behaved, with respect specifically to outdoor lighting, which is the nexus and the center of modern security, is really outdoor lighting. And the way that they have, it's an abomination what's happened. There's no other way to describe it.
In '91, I hung my shingle out and became a consulting engineer. I had spent some time with a consulting practice as a consulting engineer in between Holophane and Neoray for a couple of years, but I couldn't make any money. Architects don't pay their bills. We used to joke that we did a couple of jobs. I did 2 jobs for IMP, the lighting. I'm an electrical engineer, and I did the electrical also. And IMP is a lovely man, but I never knew that IM stood for I might.
Bill, one question
These
I have kind of going.
are at the mercy of the developers. If the developers catch a cold, you get pneumonia because they're not going to pay you. But guys like Trump, who inherited his father's business, just screwed everybody he could. And that was the model. So an architect is at the mercy of a developer. But the thing that caused what you were describing before, was that the utilities will never give away money. unless the Public Service Commission somehow reimburses them. So all the utilities that were giving rebates were getting the money back in what they were allowed to profit from having a guaranteed franchise in a particular geographical area that nobody could compete. They got all the electricity in that area. And for giving the DOE the benefit of reducing our fossil fuel dependence on energy, they let them give out rebates. I redid the lighting of the Seagram building. Now, the Seagram building is the most iconic building in New York City. So we went in there and we took out 800 incandescent lamps. They were in the lobbies, in the elevator lobbies, in the exterior canopy that goes all around the building. We took out all of the fluorescents over those luminous ceilings that cover the first 15 feet of every floor and replaced them with LEDs. We saved, in total, 90% of the load. 90% of the load. I went from a 500 watt incandescent to a 20 watt LED. Incredible. And I got better lighting. I lighted up the walls. They were uniform. It was, I mean, they got a rebate from Con Ed of $399,000. I saved them over $400,000 in their electric bill, and they paid $800,000 for the whole lighting job, new lighting.
That sounds like
so
a
when
Bobbin.
you do the arithmetic,
But hang on a second here. Doesn't that sound a little bit like a Bobbin Roode program? Like rob from the poor and give to the rich?
program?
A Bobbin Roode program, like Robin Hood, reverse Robin Hood. Because like, why would they? Why the heck would they need $400,000 of the ratepayers' money in order to justify a 2-year payback?
Because Con Ed had a program.
I know they did,
if
but
you're on
what I'm
their
asking you, Bill, is, do you think that these rebate programs are the reason why we have so many crappy light fixtures out there?
Yes, that's one of them. But that's only a small part of it.
Okay.
What we're having crappy fixtures is when you have one-for-one exchange, when you take out fluorescent and put in LEDs in a cheap housing that just meets the code, but the IES in the United States has no quality requirements. We dropped everything on glare. All we care about is illumination. We have an 11-pound handbook, and all it describes is lux or foot candles. There is nothing. The Europeans have this UGR. It's too complicated, and it ignores some human aspects of this thing, and that is, there is no such thing as a decimal point in lighting, because we're all different. We keep changing our gaze. We don't stare straight ahead with our heads locked. But there are still things that we could do to shield glare. And the first place that it should go is in street lighting. I've recommended that they tilt the fixtures, which is in the handbook, in the direction of travel. So if you have a median separating northbound from southbound or eastbound from westbound, you could change the angle of the head of the street light with LEDs so that it lights in front of you. The argument I've gotten is, well, the guys driving the other way will see the bulk of it, but that's not true. You can put a shield in to keep it from going into the other lane that's on the other side of the median, But the Cobra heads were and I did a lot of Cobra head lighting on the interstate. I did all of the I-95 south of New York through the Middle Atlantic, all the interchanges. Cobra heads with holophane glass. And we don't have a glare requirement. We don't have a quality requirement for lighting. And we've tried. We've had scissors curves, glare factors, ESI, equivalent sphere illumination, VCP. They're not human centric. You got to consider that the senses, sight, hearing, taste, smell, and pressure, are all individualistic. We're not all the same. You can't put a decimal point and say, I want you to carry this to 2 decimal places. It's not realistic. It should be a range. And you should be able to give occupants control of their lighting. Everybody should be able to dim the lighting so that we're not all the same. Some guys, I've been to buildings in which they turn the lighting all the way down or shut it off.
On this this topic of individualized lighting and control, you brought up dimming. Do you feel color tuning is as important, or do you pick a color and stick with it and just make sure it's dimmable?
We're all so different. My God, we have different. You remember a couple of years ago, there was a dress. Some people said it was blue and gray, and other people said it was yellow and gold. How could people look at something and be that different in their evaluation? So our eyesight is different. Our retinas are different. It's lovely. It's a good idea.
Okay, I got to ask you something else then.
But it's okay if you have a one-man office.
Yeah.
Then I can dial the color just the way I want it. Because if you put another person in the room, you got to fight.
Okay.
Because no two people are the same.
Well, let me ask you this. How do you feel about all this health effects of lighting stuff? Do you think it's hogwash, or do you think they're really going to create light fixtures that can improve human health outcomes?
There's a young company that is now making bed lights for hospitals that will purify the air.
Yes. Okay.
The problem is that's healthy, but a bed light has just so much room. You can't pull all the air that goes into a hospital bedroom through that light and purify and kill all the germs. I mean, there are some limits.
But listen, Bill, isn't the number one scam in the lighting business, in my career, the number one scam, snake oil move in the lighting business has been, if you use these lights, you're going to cure your seasonal affective disorder. You're going to make this people more productivity and all this sort of stuff. That's always been the realm of the snake oil in lighting, is the health effects. Do you think this industry is going to overcome that, or do you think it's just going to be a new, Jimmy's potion, 2019?
Michael, very simple. You can do it in every office that has only one occupant, and you could dial it to make him or her happy. And I've seen it. One of the richest men in America owned a bank. He owns a whole chain of banks, and he has dry eye syndrome. And we had to design the lighting for his office to minimize the amount of drops that he has to put in his eye.
Did it work?
But Mr. Gural is a billionaire, and he could do a whole building that way, and he would use cheap change to do it. But the minute you put two people into the same room, you're going to have two different opinions. It can't be done. I mean,
So you're saying
That's human nature.
right? But you're saying the health effects of lighting is all experiential. So people that say that they experience some health effects from the lighting, that's all that this industry can give them is experiential. There's nothing we can give them that say, hey, you use these lights, baby, and you're going to feel better. You're going to be more productive. That's all snake oil?
Well, one of my good friends is Mark Ray, who's head of the Lighting Research Center. And he's been promoting it. I have my doubts. It may work to some extent, but there's no proof. They're admitting it now. So
Great.
how are you going to tell people that you're benefiting them if they don't do it themselves? You give them a dimmer, and they will invariably turn the light down. We had a demonstration of that at Hall of Fame. We let people change the lights, and they always took less light than the code required. Now, there are people who don't want to wear glasses. There are people that have cataracts and don't want operation. There are people who are stubborn and won't wear glasses. What do you do with them? You have the same thing with computers. Turning up the brightness, turning down the... Now you can change it. You can make the type size bigger.
Yeah, I think a key to a lot of this health and productivity is making individualized lighting controls cost effective or affordable. And at this point, they aren't. If that point ever comes, then I think we'll have something in lighting, a next
and
new
90%
phase.
of those people, Greg, that go into color, when they find out what it's going to cost to do the whole space, say, all right, never mind. They do some engineering and tells them, hey, this ain't worth it.
With all that, is it a good time to be in lighting right now?
I got to tell you the truth. On the side, I have a startup company that dims LEDs. But you don't need a neutral in the switch. All you have to do is take out that toggle and put in my switch, and it will send a signal over the switch leg to the lighting fixture to dim it. Obviously, I got to put something in the fixture, but I could also put it in the lamp. So I've tied in with a lamp manufacturer who happens to be Chinese. But in any event, that's what I think is the future. You can't take a chance anymore on having people in hotel rooms in which you turn off all the room lights and turn on all the bathroom and leave the bathroom door open a crack. People are tripping. People are tripping in bedroom. My own wife, who had a autoimmune disease, had taken something that made her woozy. So she fractured her femur. Only because what she went to grab something to hold on to, it wasn't where her eyes told her it was. There's many, many reasons why we should be providing night lights now as much as possible in schools, in stairways, I'll give you another good example. Every high-rise building in New York has a map in the elevator lobby that says, you are here, and it shows you a layout of the floor plan. And it says, stairway A, stairway B. Do not wait for the elevator. Walk to the stairway and go down. But there's no emergency light in the elevator lobby. How is somebody supposed to read it? These are the anomalies. When you talk about health and safety, we're ignoring. I I could do a school today at a half a watt per square foot with some daylight. I'm saving all that energy. Why don't I put it into safety? Roadways, crossing. Every median on every road has tire marks on the curb. When you're making a left turn at an intersection where there's a median, so many cars are hitting the edge of the curb of the median when they make a left turn. Look at them. The concrete is broken. There's black tire marks on every curb. We don't light where the cars are causing problems. We could do so much better in saving lives on roads and streets. Why not use LEDs in our street signs? Do you know where all the signs on the highways came from? You can't even begin to imagine who came up with the white letter on a green sign. So I won't ask you to guess. I'm going to tell you. It was Lady Bird Johnson, our president's wife, who was an aesthetic-minded woman, and she chose the colors.
So Lyndon Johnson's wife determined,
told the transit authority, Federal Transit Authority, that she likes white on green.
And that's why there's white on green in Ontario. That's crazy.
Yep. Okay. It's crazy.
Green and white signs in the civil rights movement. Thanks, Lyndon Johnson. He did a lot of good stuff there. No, I mean, why
are we putting lights on the sign? Why aren't we putting lights on the sign? Because we don't want to run. I mean, we got guys maintaining those signs and lights on the signs with trucks that stop traffic. That doesn't have to be. We don't. It's very, very hard to change something that's institutionalized. We could do a lot in improving safety. In Sarasota, where I am now, where you have a school or a church or a famous restaurant and a crosswalk that people are parking and walking across, they put lights in the roadbed so that when you come to that crosswalk, they blink so that the cars know somebody is going to walk and the pedestrian knows somebody is going to walk. Makes a lot of sense. We're wasting an opportunity to make our lives so much safer with frivolous stuff. And the first and most evident proof of this are those saucepan lights that replace Cobra heads on all of our streets, or those that are changing. They didn't go one step better. They went one step cheaper, one step more efficient. That's not what we should do.
I agree.
We should be spending time on quality. We should be spending time on improving safety. There's so many areas. The roadways, the parkways, the streets, the street signs. There are LEDs. I don't know if you know Duffy Square in Manhattan. That's Times Square. It is now lighted with LEDs, but in long strips on poles. It's like Broadway. It's lighted. You got so many people in such a small space competing with cars that are still driving through Times Square, that if you didn't have this much light, you'd be killing somebody every day. Well, I think that's a step in the right direction. Improve the lighting level, improve the quality, make our lives safer and longer. But
Okay. I think that's a good note to close on, Bill.
that's my and rebates are okay, but a more important thing is that we've got to institutionalize upgrading.
Okay.
We had a system years ago called shared savings. A contractor came in and said, I can save you 50% on your electric bill. Okay, do it. He puts in all, and you're not going to pay me for the lighting fixtures. Over 20 years, you're going to give me enough to compensate me out of your savings. We're going to share the savings of the utility. But in years, these users added more electric load. Wasn't always lighting, plug load, computers, fans, whatever. But the contractor who put in the lighting had no knowledge that the bill didn't go down, not because his lighting didn't work, but because other load was added that he didn't know about. So these contractors went out of the business of shared savings. But the concept is a good one. We don't have an Oliver Warbucks, a Bezos that'll say, okay, I'll tell you what. I'll put up $1 billion. I'll get my money back, but I got to see your bill every month. And I want you to be responsible for letting me know every time you add another electric load, another watt, in addition to what I just took out. And I cut your load in half and you added to it. That doesn't count. You're going to have to pay separate for that.
I got a little secret here to end on with you. I own the trademark for shared savings in Canada, that word. So if you ever want to get into business up here, we can do it together up in Canada, Bill.
Okay.
Bill, hey, thanks for
Yes.
coming on the show. And we're going to get you on again, Bill. We're coming for you again.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
All right, enjoy your articles. Bye for now.
I'll give you anecdotes up the kazoo in 70 years.
For sure.
I love it.
Love
Thanks,
it,
Bill.
man.
But I love it.
You got me here, Scott? Keystone Technologies. Go to KEYSTONETECH.com. And the great and powerful Craig Eric's going to tell you all about their X-Fit round high bays.
X-Fit round and wash down high bays. So they have round fixtures, first of all, multiple lumen packages, which is important. That's IP65 rated. It has an L70 of greater than 100,000 hours, so that's what you need in the fixture. And it comes with a 6-foot cord and a ring bolt mounting accessory and safety hanging kit, so you can just pop that thing in place of your existing round fixture if you want to keep that. They also have their wash down high bay for commercial, industrial, food processing type applications. IP69K rated, which is the highest, means you can spray that thing down with a high pressure hose from a foot away, clean that baby off, and it won't affect the light.
Mm-hmm.
Power shot. Let's go.
You know, what I'm going to say is this, is that we're not using 3-letter acronyms to describe round LED fixtures anymore. We're ending that practice.
No more UFOs, guys. That's over.
Whoa. I just ended it. You started it again.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
No more 3-letter acronyms or 3-letter things, whatever you call them, to describe a light fixture. We're not being invaded by aliens. Okay, folks?
Okay.
So go to KEYSTONETECH.com, baby. That's KeystoneTech.com. And, of course, the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. Greg and I are members. Join us, man. Don't be a dip something. Don't be if you're a lighting distributor, you got to get into NAILD. NAILD.org. And, of course, Bill, thanks for coming on the show, man. You're a legend. I love talking about my favorite part, Bill, was talking to you about what you did after the Second World War in lighting. That was pretty awesome, dude. I mean, I know I'm not joking about that, Mr. Warren, sir. That was awesome, the way he was talking about the incandescent. He was there. He was there
from the beginning. Yeah.
Yes, dude, from incandescent to fluorescent. Now, if he starts bringing up candles to incandescent, it's all over. But this guy's got it, man. He was there from the first revolution, and it's interesting. Isn't it interesting that he went right from incandescent to fluorescent, and he jumped everything and went to LED. He didn't stop.
Exactly. No,
He's
just went
like,
right into
the
it.
only thing this is like is incandescent to fluorescent. 10 times the efficiency, he kept saying. So I thought that was interesting, Greg. You know,
Yeah, it was good. Great talk. I mean, he could go on for hours, as you probably heard today, and we'll get him on the show again.
we got to
He's a
get him
great-
live,
great-
though, next time, Mr. Warren.
Get him live.
Bill Warren, you're coming on live. Wherever we are, we're going to sit you down. We're going to talk to you. And we're going to find out more about what happened during the Second World War. Thanks for listening to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. And all of you guys out there, particularly our guests, our listeners, our sponsors. We love you guys. And Bill, thanks for coming on the show. It was an honor to talk to you. And we really appreciate you taking the time. We've read a lot of your articles. Thanks for listening, folks.
Written on the rectory wall, there's a sign there for all. You are lost, Lord is there to find you.